Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report News Hour. Yes, 21st. For the 16th year of Chungi, the 7th month and the 21st day by the heavenly calendar. Tim Elder sitting in for the second king of Cheongji-moon, and let's go right to a tour around the kingdom. And right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee, it is 57 degrees and partly cloudy. 83 for high today, mostly sunny tonight, low of 52, clear. And in father's hometown in Cheongju, North Pyongan province, in what is today North Korea, currently 79 and cloudy, getting down to 66 tonight. Tomorrow, sunny and humid, high of 83. Cheonryung Palace in northeast Pennsylvania, 53 degrees and mostly clear at the moment. 77 for a high today, partly cloudy tonight, low of 51. And then in Liberty Rock RV Park Campground in Limestone County, Texas, currently clear at 69. 94 for a high today, warm with very warm with plenty of sunshine. Tonight clear at a low of 69. And then at the Suncheon Palace in Korea, mostly cloudy at 78 right now. 75 for a low tonight, cloudy and very humid, a thunderstorm in spots this evening, followed by occasional rain and a thunderstorm late. 87 for a high tomorrow, very warm, very humid, couple of thunderstorms, especially early, cloudy in the morning, then intervals of clouds and sunshine in the afternoon. At the Gunma Palaces in Japan, 75 and rain right now. And tonight, 68 for a low, cloudy and humid with periods of rain and a thunderstorm tapering to showers. Tomorrow, high of 78, cloudy and humid, brief afternoon shower or two. And in Ilan in Taiwan, in the Republic of China, currently 88 degrees and clear. Remaining clear through the night, 76 for a low. Tomorrow, partly cloudy and hot, passing shower or two in the afternoon. High of 93. 93. All right. All right, so let's go to Father's Word. Let me reach back here. Reach back here for my Cheonseongeon. And right now, let's see, we are in some line on this. Okay. In the book on True Parents, or True Parents, yeah, True Parents, okay. And chapter 6, which is titled The True Parent and Me, or True Parent and Us. The literal translation would be us. And here in just shortly before the end of that chapter, Father says here, April 1st, 1984, what you must be proud of. What must you be proud of? You must be proud of God's love and proud of the love of true parents. This is something that you must praise more than anything that belongs to you, more than anything that belongs to the nation, and more than anything in the world. This love represents a oneness between the love of God and the love of parents. So what is this? Well, centering on the idea of love and the direct dominion, and on the basis of the family, we can establish oneness on the earth. And this is what the Unification Church is doing. And this is the path that parents are going. It is the direct dominion. It's the path to the direct dominion. Praise God, praise God, praise God. It's very near the end of chapter 6 of the book on True Parents. Okay. Thank you, Father, for the precious word that you've given us this morning. All right. So, as you might expect, the assassination of Charlie Kirk continues to reverberate. And I want to read for you a post by General Michael Flynn. which he posted 9 hours ago. If it is determined that a foreign power assassinated Charlie Kirk, parentheses, or was behind this assassination, close parentheses, there should be hell to pay. It is now being reported by the FBI that this is a possibility. If this is true, there will most certainly be other hit teams in CONUS, or CONUS, abbreviation for Continental United States, who are focused on other targets. The White House needs to inform the American people ASAP what they know. Local law enforcement across the country better have already received a bolo, be on the lookout, with as many specific details as possible. Don't kid yourself, there is a war on in America, and everything and everyone we hold dear is at risk. And here he is tagging real Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Susan Wiles, and D&IG Gabbard, and Pete Hegseth. Yes. And General Flynn is speaking somewhat circumspect, in a circumspect fashion, but there are many people who look at the situation and say, yes, it does look like there is a high probability that this is the work of a foreign power. First of all, of course, there was a great deal of planning that went into it, and it was not just sort of a spur of the moment thing. Some guy got up in the morning and said, "You know what I'll do today," or even a couple of days before that, and he was able to get away very quickly. So there is a great deal of possibility that this was a team effort, not a single individual. That either he was able to get away with drivers or even with plane pilots, airplane pilots, so forth, and so on. So there does need to be a serious consideration given to the idea that this was a group of people, at least 3 or 4 people, who participated in this situation. Right? And I want to show you a video that everyone else is showing. So we might as well do that, so that you can also be on the lookout for something like this. And here we see the guy. This is the FBI released video. We see the guy jumping off the roof after he completed his assignment. I say assignment because I suspect that he is a professional who was paid to do this. And you can see he's holding something in his right hand. Is that a coat, or is that a guns bag, or I don't know. But right now, the gun was later found in the woods, but it was found in an assembled fashion. It was put together. It was not taken apart when it was discovered in the woods. But here, I don't know, what is that in his right hand? Is that a gun bag or not? It's hard to tell, but if it's not, then he would have had to disassemble the gun, get away, and then go back into the woods, and then take the time to reassemble it and then place it there for the law enforcement authorities to find it. So that would not make a lot of sense, right? He's not a guy who has a lot of time on his hands. So why would he be disassembling and then reassembling the gun? Of course, we heard initially that the bullets that were found next to the gun had sort of anti-transgender, or actually pro-trans or anti-transgender, something about transgender on them. But this is most likely a red herring. This guy is laying a lot of sort of false clues to distract and to mislead the investigation, I suspect. And so I think probably that kind of thing does not really need to be given too much weight. But I don't know. I'm not involved in the investigation myself, but it's clear that this person did a lot of planning including how to get away, including how to mislead the investigation that he knew would follow. Um, and so it's going to take a lot of effort to work through all the false information and so forth that is going on here. Right. So we're certainly saddened by this incident, and I'm sure it will be remembered in the history of America for a long, long time. And no matter which way America goes from here, and I think President Trump is trying to lead America now in sort of the proper direction. Uh, he is encouraging a peaceful response, he says, to the incident. Let me just show you this. This is the headline on Newsmax. He's urging a peaceful response to Charlie Kirk's slaying. Trump, who soon after the killing angrily pledged a wide-ranging response against the radical left, told reporters Kirk was an advocate of nonviolence. Okay. And he could advocate nonviolence because he was so good at using words, right? And the reason he was killed was because his opponents found that they were not able to defeat him with words. And so whoever it was, whatever force was behind this, decided that they had to resort to violence in order to silence him. President Donald Trump urged supporters Thursday to respond peacefully to the killing of right-wing campaigner Charlie Kirk as the murderer continued to evade manhunt for more than 24 hours after the shooting put an already divided U.S. on edge. Trump, who soon after the killing angrily pledged a wide-ranging response against the radical left, told reporters that Kirk had been an advocate of nonviolence. This is the way I'd like to see people respond, he said. Now, there may be a public response, and then also he may turn around and tell the FBI to, go hard on these people. So I don't think this represents the entirety of a President Trump's response. So he's dealing with a couple of different audiences here. In this comment here, he's addressing the American people at large. But when he addresses the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, he may have a very different message. I think that's quite possible and maybe even desirable. Kirk, a 31-year-old superstar. Okay. Trump cited big progress in the investigation. However, authorities said the gunman remained at large a day later. Multiple leads are currently being investigated, but no suspect is in custody, Utah law enforcement officials posted after canceling a previously scheduled media briefing. We're doing everything we can to find him, and we're not sure how far he has gone yet, FBI Special Agent Robert Bowles said earlier. Now, he may be in a foreign country by now. I think that's quite possible. He may be in Venezuela or Cuba, a country that is likely to protect this kind of a person. The FBI, which described the attack on Kirk as targeted, published grainy photos of a young person it called the potential shooter. The picture showed a man wearing a black baseball cap, dark sunglasses, and what appeared to be jeans with long-sleeved top emblazoned with a design that included an American flag. A reward of up to $100,000 was posted for information leading to his capture. Police say they believe the shooter fired a single bullet from a rooftop up to 200 yards, 180 meters, hitting Kirk in the neck. A high-powered bolt-action rifle was recovered in the wooded area. So when we saw it before, we saw him jumping off the roof. So if that rifle in the wooded area was actually the rifle that was used, and we don't know that for certain, but if it was, then obviously when he jumped off the roof, he had that rifle with him. And was that what he had in his right hand? Sort of maybe a black gun bag? Could have been, I don't know. Or it could have been a jacket. I don't know what that was. Reflecting the high political nature of the incident, it was Trump, not law enforcement authorities, who first announced to Americans on Wednesday that Kirk had died shortly after Trump addressed the nation in a social media video address where he cited a dark moment for America. It certainly is a dark moment. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. He said this kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing. Yes. Isn't it interesting that it's only people on the right who are suffering the violence here? President Trump and Butler, and now Charlie Kirk, and others, of course. Trump called Kirk a giant of his generation, according to the Guardian, and he plans to issue the Presidential Medal of Freedom to the fallen conservative icon posthumously. Of course, that medal is the highest medal that can be given to a civilian. Conspiracy theories ricochet around the internet, which calls for a return to civility, while calls for a return to civility vied with those demanding vengeance. Okay, so Fox News host Jesse Waters on Wednesday said the killing signified that his side of the political spectrum was under attack. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? He asked the audience. Kirk was shot while speaking to the crowd and immediately collapsed in his chair. So this may be what the people behind the shooting, and I'm using the plural purposely, the people behind the shooting wanted. Maybe this is the purpose. Maybe this was their objective to increase the animosity between among Americans and to cause more violence organically. So that General Flynn said that there may be other targets, other hit teams around the country going after other targets. But if one incident like this, and a very public, televised incident like this, can uh, incite violence among others, in other words, people who have nothing to do with this team of assassins that did this, if people had nothing to do with them, start going after their targets on the left, for example, then basically we would be helping them. We would be helping those forces that are trying to divide Americans even further. So it is it's difficult to understand exactly how each individual, each one of us, should deal with this. Myself, of course, I'm not even in America right now, so all I can do is respond with prayer that God can guide America through this difficult situation, however that may be. Okay. All right, let's see here. And anyway, the body of Charlie Kirk was flown on Air Force Two, that is to say, the vice president's plane back to their home. And I think the funeral is going to be held there. Some people, of course, I saw are calling for, yeah, you see, well, we have to crack down on gun ownership. but, you know, but this had, I mean, that is the one crazy thing about this. Of course, I understand the left. Anytime they hear a firecracker or a car backfire, they pull out their script on on gun control. So I understand that this is their job. This is what they're paid to do, and so forth and so on. But it is so out of context because the guy who did this, he didn't care about gun control. He didn't care about what laws might or might not be in effect in Utah. Oh, wait a second. If I get caught with this gun, I'm going to be in trouble. So I better not use this gun. No, he used whatever gun he needed in order to accomplish his mission. All right. So gun control is just completely nonsensical in this situation. Boy, some people, but some people on the left, they will use any excuse. You know, maybe someone even coughs. Gun control. I think I heard a bullet. I think I heard a gun go off. This kind of thing. This is totally ridiculous. Uh, and and how do you think? What do you think? Do you think there will be some people who will actually hear that kind of a message and say, yeah, 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 that's right, gun control, gun control. No, even if you were to do, Australian style total confiscation, still the professional killers are going to have their guns, right? Because this is how they make their money. This is how they pay their kids Ivy League tuition. So they're not going to give up their guns. But anyway, it's some people are just absolutely, absolutely living in some sort of a strange bubble. It's a strange bubble. Okay. All right, let's see. I do have a very short update on Hak Ja Han's situation. And of course, as I mentioned yesterday, I think the Family Federation is gathering basically all their staff and everyone who's receiving any kind of a salary or payment from Family Federation is being told to gather in Chungkyong. Perhaps hundreds, perhaps thousands of people are gathering there. I guess I don't know for a Cheongsong period that I was originally told from October 10th to September 10th to September 23rd, but it looks like it may be to October 23rd or something like that. So I don't know. Anyway, it's probably open-ended anyway. So the question is, what's going to happen on Monday, Monday the 15th? Monday the 15th will be the third and likely last time that she is supposed to, or she's being told to report to the special prosecutor's office in Central Seoul. Um, will she do so? I think a lot of people are skeptical. So then, what happens then if she does not? If she does not, um, the kind of the obvious the obvious course of action for the special prosecutor would be to ask a court a uh, 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 for an arrest warrant. And then, so then the process will be that the special prosecutor will submit a motion to the court, and then the court will say, okay, let's hear both sides of the story. So there will be a hearing, and then, or at least if it's not a hearing, then at least documents or papers will be submitted by both sides, and the court will take all that into consideration, and then they will rule one way or another. And it's not 100% that they would rule in favor of an arrest warrant, that they would actually issue an arrest warrant. And they would have to look at the special prosecutor's arguments and see why they think that it is so crucial that they have a chance to interrogate Hak Ja Han. They may say, hey, you know what, you guys have got enough evidence already. So why do you need her to? Why is it so important for you to have her come in and to be interrogated? But that probability is, I think, not a very high probability, but higher probability probably. I'm saying just as an observer would be that they would actually issue the arrest warrant. And by the way, the special prosecutor kind of upped the ante yesterday because they executed search warrants against various properties of the Universal Peace Federation around the country, not just headquarters, but also regional offices. And what they were looking for is evidence that the Family Federation, through the Universal Peace Federation, instructed Family Federation members to join a particular political party, and then also when that party was going through the process to choose its candidate for the presidential election. And of course, that candidate wound up being Yoon Sung Yeol, and he wound up winning the election later on. But so there was a process for choosing him as the party's candidate in the election. And so the prosecution is alleging that the Family Federation, probably under Hak Ja Han's direction, said, okay, we want everybody in the Family Federation to register as a member of this political party so that they will have the right to vote in the primary, in the candidate selection process. And if true, it appears that this would be in violation of a law on political parties. There's a law called well, it's a political party law, and apparently this would be a violation of that if it is true. So they were looking for evidence of that thing, and I'm sure that they were looking for other stuff as well to see what they could find. So they are also upping the ante while they wait for Hakchahan to finally make up her mind on what to do Monday. But she's got this, well, shall I call it an army or I don't know. She's got this group of people there in Chongqing right now. All right. Things could become very bad. And I don't want to speculate on specifics, but um, knowing knowing um, what she seems to think of herself and what she seems to think of those around her, things could get very, very bad. And I think she's making things worse for herself, of course. And not only that, she's making things worse for True Father and for anyone who wants to uh, spread the teachings of True Father in Korea. After this is all over, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. I think I'm trying not to. Okay. After this is all over, we may have to wait for a new generation to come up, a new generation of Koreans to be born and raised before we can do any significant witnessing in this country. And I think we'll be lucky if it is only one generation. And that is too bad. Of course, we do have the other half. We do have the other half of Korea, and that is the half that the second king has set his eyes on. Um, he is constantly praying for the liberation of Cheongju, father's hometown. And of course, here on the King's Report, where I am reporting on the weather in Cheongju, giving the weather report just as a kind of a small, very small symbolic uh, claim on Cheongju as uh, God's territory. Uh, and we will see. We'll see. I know that the spirit world will be working very hard with the second king. And today is what my sixth day. Yes, my sixth day in Taiwan. In the I've been here before, of course, when the king was here once before in the spring, but this is my first time at the property, and the first time seeing the king really in action here in his witnessing mode here in Taiwan. And it's actually quite an inspiring sight to see. And well, he, I think I need to be careful as to just exactly how much detail I give here in a public forum, but uh, he will set his eyes on someone. He will set his mind on someone. Okay, I want to witness to that person, that particular individual. And once he does that, he will visit that person. He will create reasons to visit that person again and again and again and invite them to the service. And in the process, he will explain to them about the blessing, explain to them about the true parents and so forth. Um, and he does this all in Chinese, which I don't understand. Just today, a taxi driver asked me, "How's my Chinese?" And I said, "Well, all I can say is thank you." And even that is a little bit suspect, I guess. So I don't understand what he is saying. I hear certain words that he uses, which I understand. Like I think I understand the word for God and so forth. And but he goes into this whole sort of witnessing spiel, and uh, uh, usually the person on the other end is a small business owner. Let's put it that way. He doesn't just walk up to someone on the street. He uh, deals with people who have a relationship, perhaps as a some kind of a provider. They are providing something to the mission here. The mission here uses a lot of products, and obviously those products are provided, they're sold to us by some businessman. And so then he will ask the staff, okay, who are you buying this from? And the staff will answer. He says, okay, well, let's go to that person and I'm going to witness to that person. He doesn't just walk up to people on the street. And he goes to there, and he thanks them for the great job that they're doing, and gives them all kinds of compliments, and then he sort of launches into this whole spiel, right, about true parents, about the blessing, and so forth and so on. And if after a few visits they don't really respond, then he will instruct the staff to say, "Listen, let's switch to another provider." So, someone who may be more receptive. Uh, very interesting way that he does this. But it's succeeding, right? Already, how many? I think already a couple of blessings have occurred, and there's another blessing that's going to occur very soon here. So already more people have been blessed here in Taiwan in the last um, 3 months than were blessed probably 10, 20 years prior to that. So I think people are kind of overpowered, shall I say, or just very attracted to to the depth of his to the depth of his love, to the depth of his commitment to his message, and also to his humility. He doesn't go in and sort of just order people. You must do this. You must do that. No, he's like Father. He's an educator, and he's educating, 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 and he will do his best to educate someone. But then it's up to them to decide whether or not they accept the education. And if they don't, then okay, let's try somebody else. Right? All right, so that's what's going on here. And I think this is the method that is going to succeed in the end. We have Hak Ja Han, of course, who believed in the past tense that uh, that buying political power with money was the way to go. Okay, and we also have another group that also believes that money and power and assets uh, uh, are going to bring about God's kingdom. But the second king of China, Kyung Ji Moon, is going a very different course, a very different strategy, very different idea. Uh, all right, so let's see what else is going on today. Let's look at. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, let's look at this story. Yeah, I was going to do this story. That's about China and Mexico. China is not happy with Mexico because China thinks, is being too much influenced by the United States. China gives Mexico a stiff warning over tariffs seen appeasing the US. So, from China's point of view, Mexico is applying tariffs to China, and China is saying, wait a second, Trump told you to do this, didn't he? We don't like that, basically, what they're saying here. China urged Mexico to think twice, think twice before levying tariffs, a warning that could signal Beijing's willingness to retaliate over a move it sees as giving into demands from the US. So you can see that already China is taking a very arrogant and domineering role in the world. Uh, so if a country decides to accept the pressure that they are receiving from President Trump, from the Trump administration, then China is going to come around and say, no, 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 no. You need to fear us more than you fear Trump. So we'll see how that works out. Any unilateral tariff increase by Mexico, even within the framework of WTO rules, would be seen as appeasement and compromise toward unilateral bullying. Well, unilateral bullying now is the code word that China uses for what? For United States of America. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce said in a statement on Thursday, "We urge the Mexican side to exercise extreme caution and consider carefully before taking any actions." So this was a spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce, wasn't it? Okay. Mexico has come under growing pressure from Donald Trump's protectionist stance on trade. Let's see who wrote this. Bloomberg. I see. Okay. Well, yeah, globalist Bloomberg there, anti-gun Bloomberg. Particularly his push for steep tariffs on Chinese goods. The Latin American country announced plans Thursday to impose duties of as much as 50% on cars and other products made by China and several Asian exporters. President Claudia Sheinbaum, who's preparing for talks over North America's free trade deal, later insisted she doesn't seek conflict with China, but instead wants to protect the domestic industry. China's exports to Mexico have nearly doubled since 2016, the year before Trump started his first term in office, in part because Chinese companies moved operations there to avoid tariffs. And of course, Trump is very aware of what's going on, and so he's pressuring Mexico to put tariffs on there. But it's becoming increasingly difficult for countries caught in the middle between Washington and Beijing to navigate bilateral relationships with the two superpowers as the US president pushes trading partners to increase levies on China. Beijing will likely hit back with reciprocal tariffs immediately, but risks alienating partners at a time when it critically needs allies. Over time, it may also encourage firms to localize production in partner countries, though that would come at the cost of weaker output and jobs at home. And China runs a substantial trade surplus with Mexico. Last year, it exported $71 billion more than it imported, according to China's customs data. Mexico accounted for about 5% of China's copper ore imports in January to July, as the Asian nation's smelters try to secure every ton of raw material they can in a tight global market. While copper ore and concentrates could be a potential target for retaliation, Mexico would likely be able to find other customers, given strong demand for the metal essential for the renewable energy industry. The biggest producer of copper in Mexico is US-based Southern Copper Corp, a part of Mexican billionaire German Lares Grupo Mexico. The Ministry of Commerce spokesperson urged countries to strengthen communication and coordination amid widespread global opposition to indiscriminate imposition of tariffs from the US, adding that China would take new necessary measures to safeguard its rights and interests. Right. So China is going to try and bully Mexico into standing against the United States. But I think Claudia Sheinbaum strikes me as being a rather level-headed person. So I think she's probably going to uh, do the right thing for Mexico, and probably that means siding with the United States. All right, let's see here. Um, I want to avoid now most of the stories on Charlie Kirk. I think we've covered it enough, and I know there's a lot of reaction stories and so forth. And but as I said yesterday, I think many of the people are going through emotions that I experienced and many of you experienced at the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s, and not so much RFK, I think, but MLK's Dr. King's assassination was really a huge shock, I think, to all but a very few very stupid Americans. But for everyone else, it was a huge shock, huge shock. And Charlie Kirk's assassination is not quite on that level, but it is certainly close. Okay. All right, let's see here. Okay, Rubio condemns conviction of former Brazil President Bolsonaro, says U.S. will act. And already President Trump has acted by increasing tariffs on Brazil for jailing Bolsonaro. And I said previously that South Korea may be trying to avoid a similar treatment, and um, but I think that was kind of a fleeting moment now. And especially the situation in Georgia has basically erased any sort of concern that South Korea may have had. It's hard to explain the level of frustration and anger that South Koreans are feeling right now over the arrest, the detainment of more than 300 South Koreans at the Hyundai plant and also other plants around there in Georgia about a week ago. They say, well, on the one hand, President Trump is encouraging South Korea to invest in the United States. And on the other hand, it's difficult to get visas for our people. The U.S. Embassy in Seoul is very stingy on visas. But we need these people, whether they're at Hyundai or LG or whoever is working there, need these people with the specialized skills there in Georgia in order to move the project forward. So they send the people there, without the 100% kosher visa, and then now they get caught, and according to the law, of course, they were violating the law. That is true, but something needs to be worked out, I think, for this situation to be resolved. And even, I think they were returned. I think they landed in South Korea just a few hours ago, about 3 or 4 hours ago, on this special charter flight that the government sent over to pick them up. But even, the South Korean workers were put in chains and handcuffed in chains and humiliated publicly in that way. And from the American perspective, I know the administration is saying, hey, we're just doing our job. They broke the law, and that is certainly true. But obviously, there needs to be some flexibility here. If And also, even if you're going to kick people out, I think it could have been handled a lot better, a lot better. And this incident, I'm afraid, may mark a turning point in U.S. South Korean relations. It may be something that the anti-American forces in South Korea will be able to utilize in order to drive a bigger wedge through the relationship between the U.S. and South Korea as time goes on. They'll keep coming back to this. Remember what happened in Georgia. Remember what happened in Georgia. This kind of a thing. Um, and I think already we're beginning to see signs of that kind of a thing in South Korea. We have in Korea now we have an administration that is not exactly friendly toward America in the first place. Um, so we'll see what develops from this, but I see some difficulties coming from this, and it's and it's kind of a uh, America shooting itself in the foot by insisting on following the letter of the law, in my opinion. Okay. All right, let's see here. Um, it's not just Georgia either. Right now, the president of South Korea has warned President Trump. I think that he has warned President Trump that this may affect South Korea's investment in other projects in America. Okay. All right, let's see. If we don't do Charlie Kirk, then there isn't a whole lot else, is there? Well, let's see what we can find here. Okay. All right, we have the situation between Israel and Qatar. Poland says Russia's drone incursion wasn't a mistake. And Carney, who is the Prime Minister of Canada, unveils major projects for Canada to offset damage of Trump's tariffs. So the effect of the tariffs is going to be to, reorder, shall we say, the world trade situation and to and to um, have to make investments go in a different direction, and we'll see how that results. Let's see here. China pilots village surveillance in Solomon Islands, seeks stability. Right. Okay. Let's see if Reuters will let us see this. China pilots village surveillance in Solomon Islands. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, but yeah, they're not going to let us see it. All right. But I think we basically know what's going on there. China is introducing a surveillance system to Solomon Islands and say, look, you can keep an eye on your neighbors, and isn't that great? We have stability because no one will be able to do anything. Isn't that interesting that the Father's teaching, the teachings in Father is that people will not sin because they will be one with God's Shimjong, and they know that their sin will cause pain in God's Shimjong, and God's pain is their pain. And so, therefore, people will not sin. The communist idea is that, well, people will not sin because they know that their neighbors are watching and the government is watching. And if they sin, they'll be put in jail or their social credit score will be lowered. And so, therefore, people will not sin. Which world would you like to live in, right? um, okay. Uh, U.S. inflation jumps 2.9% in August as gas and grocery airfare prices rise, okay, and so forth. NASA bans Chinese nationals from all space programs amid rising U.S.-China moon race. Well, it seems like a good idea. China has now put a base on the opposite side of the moon. Have and say, let's see what this is about. NASA has barred Chinese nationals from its space program, citing security concerns and China's growing space ambitions. This decision restricts access to, let me get rid of this pop up, to NASA facilities and data, intensifying the second space race as both nations vie for lunar dominance. With valuable resources at stake, the U.S. aims to prevent China from leading in lunar exploration, highlighting escalating tensions in space collaboration. NASA has officially barred Chinese nationals from working uh, with its space programs, even if they hold valid U.S. visas. The decision confirmed on 5 September blocks Chinese students, researchers, and contractors from accessing NASA facilities, networks, and materials. According to reports, many were abruptly locked out of agency systems and excluded from both in person and virtual meetings related to their work. As BBC reported, NASA spokesperson Bethany Stevens explained that the action was taken to safeguard the agency's physical cybersecurity environment. While Chinese nationals previously contributed to research in limited capacities, these opportunities have now been revoked entirely. The click that, okay. The move reflects Washington's growing suspicion of Beijing's technological ambitions. It's about time, right? It's about time. For years, the US Congress has restricted NASA from collaborating with China, citing national security risks. This ban extends to sharing scientific data, which is why Chinese astronauts remain excluded from the International Space Station. Concerns have intensified as China rapidly advances its space program. Several cases in the US involving alleged espionage by Chinese nationals, particularly scientists in sensitive fields, have fueled mistrust. This has made it harder for Chinese students pursuing science and technology degrees to secure visas to enter the United States, even after receiving approvals. NASA leaders have openly acknowledged that the world is witnessing a second space race. Acting Administrator Sean Duffy told reporters that China aims to return astronauts to the moon before the US, a scenario Washington is determined to prevent. The Chinese want to get back to the moon before us. That's not going to happen, Duffy declared. The rivalry is not merely symbolic. The moon contains valuable resources, including rare earth minerals, titanium, iron, and helium. Material is essential for industries ranging from advanced electronics to medical technology. Lawmakers in the U.S. Senate have warned that if China establishes dominance over lunar resources, it could pose serious risks to America's technological and strategic interests. Chinese officials, however, have dismissed American concerns as unnecessary. The director of China's Manned Space Agency's Technology Bureau argued last year that space exploration should be seen as a collective mission for humanity. Despite this, Beijing has made no attempt to hide its ambitious goals, which include building a permanent lunar base and advancing crewed deep space missions. The new NASA restrictions highlight the accelerating breakdown of scientific collaboration between the two superpowers. Once seen as a potential area for cooperation, space has now become a key battleground for influence and technological supremacy. With both nations racing to secure a foothold on the moon, the stakes extend far beyond exploration. They include control over resources critical to the global economy and future industries. As Senator Ted Cruz put it during a recent Senate hearing, China has made no secret of its goals. If our adversaries achieve dominant space capabilities, it would pose a profound risk to America. The stakes could not be higher, BBC reports. Right. So basically, the U.S. is interested in the moon and space exploration because the Chinese are interested in it. And China is interested in moon and space exploration because they believe that it will give them a higher ground against the United States and better able to, they'll be better able to control the world, or I'm sorry, provide stability to the world. Provide stability to the world, yes. uh, my goodness. And of course, the first space race was similar. The United States was interested in getting to the moon because, well, the Soviets were interested in getting to the moon, and but it is so. This is another area where a lot of funds are going to be expended, and is going to, of course, worsen the deficit and worsen the national debt situation. But I can see, yes, that it is true that if China's going to go, if China's going to do this, then certainly the United States cannot just sit back and watch. That is true. But that's just another illustration of how the system is broken. The system is broken, and it's just a matter of time before the whole thing comes collapsing down, which is, basically what Father predicted, saying that Satan's world will collapse and then God's world will come up in its place, and there will be a transition. And the transition is going. It can be smooth or it can be rough, and of course, as a result of Hak Jahan's betrayal, it is going to be rough. And the more she fights this thing right now that she's facing, it's going to get that much more. It's just going to get that much tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher. I think there will be influence in the United States as well. Right now, Gingrich, who else? Pompeo, J.D. Vance. These people are being pressured by the Washington Times to support Hak Jahan. But when she's finally found guilty in court of law and sentenced, receives a criminal sentence, then how will that affect Washington Times' relationship with these people? Hey, you made me support someone who actually committed a criminal act, right? And this was proven in court. So how can I trust you in the future? So it will also undermine the foundation of the United States, which I think is unfortunate. Well, we'll see. We'll see what goes on right now, and we don't know what's happening with all those people gathering in Chongqing. It may be something completely different. It may be something completely different. It could be that the best case scenario, I think, could be that all these people around the world are being brought together, not by Hak Jahan, but by uh, individuals who are who are looking into the future and seeing a situation where the Family Federation will have to somehow continue operating in the absence of Hak Ja Han. And so gathering all its staff from around the world in order to discuss that possibility. That could be the reason, and it may have nothing to do. They may be perfectly willing to escort her to the door uh, when the police show up with their arrest warrant. It may be that may be the case, but we'll have to wait and see what happens next week, beginning on Monday. Right. All right, so I think uh, for God's providence is centering on uh, Father's teaching. Next week is going to be a very critical time. The question will be how far will Hak Ja Han and the Family Federation people um, damage a father's reputation? Because his reputation is being damaged with this. How far will they go damaging father's reputation in order to protect Hak Ja Han from uh, public humiliation, from criminal charges? We'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right. Yes. Um, let's see what else might be going on. I don't think much else is going on, actually. Here we go. All right. Well, yeah, you can always count on Putin to say something. Okay, let's take a look at what he's saying. He's saying that his doomsday base can flatten London in 8 minutes. All right. Yes, that'll take our attention away from Hak Ja Han. All right. So there's the headline. Doomsday base could flatten London in 8 minutes. Okay, let's see what he's saying there. The Oreshik has been tested oops, against Ukrainian targets, causing massive destruction. Okay. Reports claim Vladimir Putin is secretly constructing a military base in Belarus. If true, the site could house Oreshik missiles, weapons capable of striking Britain in just minutes. Pro Kremlin outlets have suggested London could be destroyed in as little as 8 minutes. Well, of course, UK is a member of NATO, and so that would be the same as attacking the United States, basically. Well, anyway, let's read on. The Oreshnik has been tested against Iranian targets, causing massive destruction, although not yet armed with nuclear warheads. The missile has proved highly effective. Kremlin propagandists call it a game-changing weapon that the West cannot stop. Satellite images show construction near the Belarusian village of I give up, just south of Minsk. The site is growing rapidly and already resembles a large scale Russian military facility. Observers say Belarus is being turned into a launch pad for Moscow's long range weapons. If deployed, the Oreshnik could put the British capital well within striking distance. A launch from Belarus would take only 8 minutes for a warhead to reach London. From its current deployment sites in Russia, the missile would take 20 minutes. The news comes as Russia continues to fire missiles across Polish airspace. Polish officials have described the incidents as the most serious threat since World War II. Prime Minister Donald Tusk said Poland has never been so close to conflict since 1945. Russian propaganda outlets have boasted about Oreshnik's destructive capability. They insist Western forces would have no way to stop it from reaching its targets. Claims suggest the Belarus base could be fully operational by the end of 2025. All right, well, that is not very good. This is some sort of what is this? No, okay, that's something else. All right. Okay, why am I getting Canada? Oh, I see, because my VPN, I think maybe not now, but I was setting my VPN to Vancouver. That's why. All right, let's see here. China caught in policy dilemma as Fed rate cut looms. Well, now we don't know because yesterday's inflation figures were slightly higher, so we don't know exactly what the U.S. Federal Reserve is going to do. All right, anyway, time is up, so we will find out as time goes on what happens there. All right, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.